by Samantha. I'm going to make you the presenter now. Look forward to seeing your screen, hearing your voice. You'll see the audio and the screen share function right there. Happy Halloween to you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Samantha.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's a treat to have you and great to meet you.
It's very nice to be here. Thank you for the invite. That was sweet.
Yeah, we'll keep going with the Halloween metaphors. So, do you see the screen sharing option there?
I do. All right. Hold on one second. So sorry about that.
So we could look at your setups.
I have, which do I choose as far as which particular?
Whichever screen that you had. There you go. So we see your website right now.
All
okay.
Right.
Is that what you want?
Sure, that
Is
works.
that what you want to show?
I have 3 monitors open on this particular computer, so I'm just curious what you get to see. But you see the website? That's perfect. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to start off, Samantha, by finding out how you entered the business. You know, I read a little bit on your Twitter handle about that you left the financial tech or the tech industry to become a trader, and I'm interested in who you blame for you becoming a trader, and how your journey developed, and if there's anything from the beginning that still haunts you.
Oh, well, you are really in the Halloween theme here. You're going to regret those words, unfortunately. Okay, so yeah, full disclosure, this was not a career plan.
Okay.
And I definitely want to get to talking about market calls and what's going on in the market too. So I'm going to quickly do the humble origins, if you will, because it's a personal experience. Everyone, I think, has their own as they enter this full-time, in my case, full-time professional trading. I actually ran a business for 10 years. My son had a medical emergency. It was the impetus. In fact, he's perfectly fine now. He's a punk 15-and-a-half-year-old. But at the time, he was 4.5, and he suffered a stroke. So I actually sold my business from the hospital, Children's Hospital in Boston. Very few notice. And I knew I wasn't going to be returning. A year and a half later, he was in school, fully recovered. And I said, okay, it is September 2008, right at the Lehman time, if you will.
Right. Yes.
And I chose to make sure I was doing a job during the day, that I could meet the kids off the bus. And in particular, that was something I had wanted to do, get into this business of, exercising my mind, if you will, and utilizing some returns from the sale of the business. And I ended up full-time trading on September 18th, 2008. That's honestly how I got into this. That's
a great story. So I came from a one-parent family, and my mother found something to do so she could be home when we got home from school. She was a librarian at the school. So you were driven so that you could be home with your son, and then he recovered, and you still wanted to be around to watch them grow up. I
have been working from home, so that wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I was still primary. There's no question about that. My point was just to have, it's all consuming to be an owner operator. It's very, and I'm very intense. I'm an intense mother. I'm an intense owner operator. I'm an intense analyst. So I do not do things lightly. Anyone who's looked at my videos and has seen my trading journal knows that. I really love to learn. This is the best game in town. It's also, constantly evolving, never boring. I could never trade one index or, one sector or a currency.
We get plenty of, we won't need brain teasers in 20 years because every day is a brain teaser.
Absolutely.
In our career.
So this is how I got into it. I also didn't see any business that I wanted to enter into that particular time, 2008. It just seemed like I had no inspiration for a business, and this was very, very interesting to me. And then, of course, I got lucky. I made, on my small initial investment, a good size, more than 400% in the next 6 months, mainly shorting. And that was, again, the drug, if you will. Oh my goodness, this is not only mind stimulating. I love business. It's going to be a continuous learning environment.
So were you self-taught? How did you know most people would not have been sophisticated enough to come in when there was euphoria at that time in the market and think about shorting the market. Did you read anything that influenced you, or are you completely self-taught?
I'm definitely self-taught, but self-motivated to find mentors. So what I did, and typical in my fashion, is I went all in, meaning, okay, what's the best platform? What's the best aggregator of information from which I can learn? And who are the best traders and or money managers? Because at the time I wasn't sure which route I would go. And I basically, I did things like sign up for the chairman's letter on the street so I could find out all what the analysts do and which resonated more with me. And then
you were hungry and thirsty for knowledge.
Exactly. So I actually identified some super traders and some super money managers, and I said, can I mentor you? That was how I got out, if you will, and met people in this space, and then followed them, learned from them, took what basically fit for my own personal style, my own personal experience, and I've been evolving that over time, and that has worked for me. But yeah, I'm insatiable with the knowledge. This to me is a lot
So let's move on and share some. And I really love the fishing metaphor that you use on your.
It's universal.
Were you a fisher lady before you came up with this metaphor, or does it derive from give a man a fish and he has a meal for a day, teach a man to fish and he feeds himself forever?
It is that idea. It is basically, I wanted an idiom that would be understandable in multiple languages, and it is a universal concept, no question.
Okay. Beautiful.
So that was it. It was the main idea, and I just ran with it. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of play, if you will, on the fish stories, and this is how I have had more fun with a serious topic. So
and you're the captain.
And I'm the captain, and it is, get on the boat, come on, let's go fishing, and you also have flexibility. I have, the live trading room, and folks can pop in for a day, a week, a month. I do a weekly newsletter, which is more macro or investment focused. The room, of course, is going to be chasing and swing trading. I am primarily a basket swing trader, so I like to identify themes and then trade around that theme, but earnings, forget about it. This is crazy, and that's a lot of chasing. Up to earnings, lottos during earnings, and then of course after earnings. So I am, as you know, equities trader, options on equities, and using. Okay,
so I teach, even if you have your intelligence gathering, like your excuse me, your mentees or your subscribers, they're all still captains of their own ship.
Absolutely.
Okay, we all are captains of our own ship. We don't blame anyone for our mistakes. If we crash the boat against the rocks, we've done it ourselves. And if we're in smooth sailing waters, we could also take credit for that. So why don't we take a look at some of your favorite fishing holes?
That actually goes to, there are three themes, you're right. I haven't even looked at this and like, where is that? Favorite fishing holes, you're cute. So the chase, the swing, and the trend. I really like to, first and foremost, follow trends. So one of the prime examples of that is this summer, I identified a bottom that I felt was a bottom in oil and gas companies. This is an XLE, just an example. And
it's not showing up, but I saw you trying to move it over. I'm
still looking. You don't see it?
No, but I saw you move it over. You might have to stop the screen share and start it again to get to that monitor. So.
Okay, I can approach that a different,
There you go. It's, see, so it disappears. You bring it over and then it disappears, so.
All right, well, in any case, I tweeted about this back on August 22nd, that we were going long the XLE and relative components. For me, that was a trend reversal time, and I wanted to be long and incrementally adding to it. So that was actually up to 12 oil and gas plays from August 22nd all the way until September 26th. So that's how I ideally like to trade. But no, this is very different now in regards to earnings season. It's crazy. This week will be macro focused. We have way too much going on, especially tomorrow. They bring tons of fireworks. So, what
about other events that are market moving, like central banks and non-farm payrolls? Are you more inclined to step aside or trade through them?
Oh my gosh, definitely trade through them. This is where, like every weekend, I'm putting together a list of kind of the most important charts that I see, whether it be on volatility. This is, one of the volatility charts that is, talk about volatility, but we don't see it. Trying to predict it is one of my, main themes, if you will, patterns and volatility. I'm kind of known for that. So I put together lots in regards to market direction and then particular, divergences, interest rates, commodities. All of this is driven by macro. It's a macro backdrop. So
you trade narratives, Samantha.
I trade absolutely a macro backdrop. Is inflation ready yet? And then specifically, what are the sectors and stocks within those that are ready to go? Like the U.S. dollar, thesis that I had back in September. It was time for a bounce. That type of thing.
I see. Okay. And how does the dollar figure into what you do in stock options? You trade you ETFs around the dollar, options on those?
Yep, ETF around, this was very much macro backdrop, and then identifying obviously what happens with gold and rates, and as a result of rates, financials. So there's a whole bunch of focus on the macro that drives the selection, if you will, of stocks and the volatility of that movement as well as just, this is a pullback to support, trading the dollar long and the euro short. So these are the macro themes, if you will, the whale trades, to go back to the fishing hole theme, and then the swing trading, as I mentioned, with oil and gas, which is very much a theme that I think has legs, or I should say, stay with the current, because it's going in one direction quite smoothly, versus the chase. The chase is really very much about, wrong one, sorry. Did I just lose you again on my screen?
There, we got the bonds.
Okay, so this is my trading journal, okay? And this is very much a chase type of atmosphere with earnings, very much. We traded Expedia and Humana, and these are comments on other particular opportunities. But all of this is against a backdrop of what bonds are going to do. Okay, this was last week, but it still hasn't decided. I'm waiting and positioning for a big bond movement. And I think many, whether a macro manager or a fund manager or us active traders and investors, we're watching bonds like a hawk because they will have a big impact. And the bond market is 6 times the size of the equities market. So we should watch the bond market. Obviously, for retail traders, which I serve primarily, TLT is our vehicle of choice. So
I like it.
This is how the macro to micro focus for me has evolved, and I do both.
Okay. So do you have a bias? I see you have this area circled here, possibly a failing rally that we're looking at in the bonds.
I don't think it's a
last
failing
November
rally.
Or new highs.
I don't think it's a failing rally. So it has not confirmed in any way, shape, or form, right? We had a little bounce, the past few days, but that is not. This is a week. This is going to be weeks before. But regardless, there are some So the intermarket analysis that I do is playing an awful lot with ratios and indicators and patterns. So when I spy, obviously the green arrow, you can see this has been an oversold area where TLT has typically gone up. Right. In addition to that, you can see when it gets above this special indicator, it has not just gone up, it's skyrocketed higher, skyrocketed higher, skyrocketed very quick. I mean, we're talking a spike up situation.
Impulsive, Ellioticians would call them impulsive moves. They get from point A to B in a hurry.
All right, well, this is my whole pattern recognition eye, and then I put this obviously to today. We did, crossover, if you will, retest, crossover, retest. Are we going to fail? Everyone is quite worried that bonds and equities are going to fall together, or we're going to have a melt-up market and bonds will crash. Regardless, this is telling me, that's why it's in blue, it hasn't confirmed one way or the other, that we have a higher probability of bonds going up, rates coming down, and that for me also falls in alignment with TNX, the 10-year, which has an open gap that has not been filled down around 1.87%. And I know everyone's talking about inflation and new Fed chair and I say, I see a gap that needs to be filled. I see bonds that are looking to go up, maybe not. I see volatility as an absolute trigger.
So we missed the gap fill by going to 2%. Did we eat into the gap? Did we eat into the gap at all?
Nope, it is completely unfilled. 1.87 area is completely unfilled. And with that, that's a pearl. Okay. So when I look for all of these different reasons, I'm also looking to justify my price, my market call. Okay, now this is true. Right. Many people, they discourage that. I am fully on board with it. So I'm looking for narratives to support the price action. I don't like relative weight diverging with the S&P. We know what drives this index higher, the Facebooks and the Apple. I do not like the look of commodities at all. I am not a commodity bull. This is,
except oil.
No, I think oil is going to pull back before it goes higher.
Okay, all right.
So
that all kind of plays into the bond surprising people and making new TLT, maybe making new highs and putting in a third drive up there above 140.
Correct.
Is that what you're thinking?
Exactly. And then once we have filled that gap fill in the 10-year and bonds have fulfilled, if you will, their destiny, I think.
Okay, I like that.
I think it's done. Then I think that's 2018, 2019, we turn in rates in earnest and we don't look back. I think that'll be a generational low. So yes, I am trading short term, I am trading swing, but the backdrop is against this trend identification, and I simply see bonds, and I don't see inflation in the same way that is talked about right now.
You see deflation, don't you?
I see disinflation. Okay,
that's in between. Okay.
Yep, I see disinflation, and there's a much better chart of this. If you give me a second to find it, a much better chart of this. Hold on, can I?
Sure.
This is one, obviously, but I like this particular one better. Yeah, more to here. I also have a stock bond volatility ratio, which has triggered, but it has not confirmed yet. But here it is. I like this one a lot. So this is CRB, and this is on a monthly, and I know it's probably quite small, but do your best. We have multi-decade lows in commodities, right? Mm-hmm. So when this gets above concrete, I consider this concrete, then inflation will be off and running and so will rates. It's not there yet. So everyone is very quick to jump on the inflation bandwagon. It's not there yet. Once, and this is my thesis, once rates fill that gap, the 10-year fills that gap, bonds have finished their last hurrah, which would be obviously a nice head and shoulders, and then that gives commodities a little bit more time to work up, you know, an appetite to push through that line, get up and above and stay up. Then we have confirmed inflation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And great technical argument and fundamental argument. So I'm very impressed and have really enjoyed taking a look at how you, and the passion and the laughter that you really love what you do, Samantha, comes across.
Well, thank you so much. I do. I like this. It's good to also help others do this. I really enjoy the analysis. I like to educate, and of course trading, but there is a lot of work in creating this body of work. So I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to kind of show it off a little bit. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's top drawer. Okay, so some interesting looks with what's happening with bonds and commodities and the dollar. You think the dollar, most likely when the bonds peak, the dollar will peak too, and dollar will head down, and that'll be supportive of higher commodity prices and higher interest rates sometime next year.
But we're not there yet. So most people don't trade based on next year. Let's be honest.
Right. So you're keying a lot of your work for 2018 though is predicated on this move in bonds to fill the gap and a breakout in the CRB. I'm just wondering how you think the dollar will fit into that puzzle.
Oh, this lower, but we obviously are in bounce mode right now. Where did I already do this? Yeah. So this, which date was this? Oh, 10/22, so not too bad. So this was my thesis in late September that we were going to bounce, and we did. And by the way, this is CAD as well for those who, because I know you guys trade a lot of Forex. So this to me is a counter trend bounce, and it will the resumption of the downtrend will continue in 2018. But for right now, we have a lot of chop. We have a lot that is undecided, you know, from goodness, the Fed chair to the tax, the draft of a tax bill, and then its chances of passing, and unrelenting buying in the momentum stocks, which I do see, by the way, glimmers of that slowing and a movement to value. I dare say that because funds are blowing up left and right who are value investors, and I personally only have a handful of what I would consider value stocks in my trend trading portfolio, but I still do see firms.
Samantha, sorry to interrupt, Dale and Samantha. We had been able to see only a TLT chart that you were showing, and we're just now seeing.
I knew that.
Part of the website, it says Wednesday brings the real fireworks. The ADP report estimate may be a miss. So we missed some of the charts you wanted to show.
I didn't hear you because I can't see what you're seeing, unfortunately.
Okay. Anyway, Samantha, that we haven't seen the CRB chart. You know, I didn't want to keep bringing it up since there was an issue with
okay. I'm so sorry.
But I wanted to keep the flow going of the interview. So, we can imagine it in our mind. So next time it'll be cleaner, or you'll have some practice of showing the different charts on the screen. But I do want to say that if I was a novice and I wanted to learn how to trade, I would definitely look you up.
Oh, thank you. I hope I don't attract newbies, because I think this is too sophisticated for newbies. I think.
Okay, I think you're right.
Yeah, no, there's no way I have the focus on educating. In my live trading room, there's no question. It's okay, not just what's moving, but why it's moving and how to trade it. But their basic understanding of or interest in macro and options is essential. I'm not that type of trader educator at all.
Okay, so more of the intermediate term to advanced.
Absolutely.
That are interested in intelligence gathering and having a good sounding board like you.
I hope I can prove a good mentor.
Okay, so what's the best way for people to get a hold of you? You're showing your website. Is it www.laductrading.com?
Yes, it is, and I'm sorry you couldn't see all the other stuff. I apologize for not
but we get it.
knowing how to work your screen share.
All right, we get it, and
right.
great furl about the gap in the bonds and commodities not being ready yet, and bounce in the dollar should continue for a while, and that this could be a generational top after we shake out the last of the bond bears here.
Anybody wants to get a hold of me for those specific slides, it's Samantha@LaDucTrading.com. I'm happy to make up for that lost time.
Okay, Samantha, thank you so much for your time and sharing a little bit about your journey. And my gosh, what a great start you had, being short during one of the great bear markets in the history of the U.S. And I wish you and all the people that gather with you in your room every day nothing but green dollars or euros just falling on top of them the rest of the year and going into the next. So again, I'd like to call you my trading warrior sister, and thanks for hanging out and edifying our community on Halloween today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you again. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Samantha.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, that's Samantha Duc. You could follow her at Samantha Duc.
LaDuc.
LaDuc.
Yep.
Thank you, Samantha. And that's going to be it for us today, everybody. Good hunting. And there's people thanking you, Samantha. Well done. See, I told you you'd do great. And why 2018? So people were paying attention, Samantha. Thank you for your time again.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.